I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. And so welcome to our 7th Senate meeting of the academic year. Again, I'm Brenda Hosley, and I am the University Senate President and Chair of the University Academic Council. So we need to establish a quorum. So we have a question. So Chuck, if you would post the question. And the question is, moderate caffeine consumption is defined as about how much per day for most adults? A, less than 100 milligrams. B, 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams. C, 200 milligrams to 300 milligrams. Or D, 300 milligrams to 400 milligrams. So if you take out your clickers and make your selection. Okay, Chuck, if you would tally the scores. Okay, looks like we have, is that 11 for A? 31 for B, 25, is that? Yeah. For C, and 12 for D. And the answer is actually C, 200 milligrams to 300 milligrams, which is equivalent to 2 cups of coffee. So it's that time of year that we know that most people are going way over that limit. But anyway, just to give you a place to start and to think about how much caffeine you are consuming. So just a couple of housekeeping items regarding the technology. If we lose video with the other campuses but maintain audio, the meeting will continue. If we lose audio, we will take a 10-minute recess to see if audio can be restored. If not restored after 10 minutes, the meeting is adjourned. So we will move now to our informational reports. And so Provost Cyril is going to give us an update about what's happening with tuition.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you may know, we made a promise probably 5 years ago, 4 for sure, that we would keep tuition increases between 0 and 3% for our in-state students. And we have kept that promise. To this point in time, we have averaged about 1.4% increase for tuition for in-state students. And this year is really no different. We had put a surcharge on last year because of the state's extra cut that they gave to us. So far, it does not look like, at least we don't know, whether the state's going to do anything better for us other than the $8 million that was recommended to the universities as a whole, which is $4.2 million to ASU from the governor's budget. So we have reduced the surcharge by $50, and we have increased the tuition by about $150. So it's still about a 1.5% increase in tuition. And so that'll put our tuition just under $10.5 for in-state students. We will be less expensive than NAU and U of A if their tuition proposals are accepted, because they have a guaranteed tuition plan, which is interestingly going to create a situation where their freshmen continue to pay more and more and more because that's the only group they can tax. And so I think next year's freshman tuition at U of A is probably going to be somewhere between 11, assuming their recommendations accepted, 11,750, something like that. And NAU will be just slightly ahead of us, I believe. So we think that we are taking the responsible course of action, and we believe that that's the right approach for our resident students. For our out-of-state students and international students, the increase is, I think, $1,000 is that we've recommended, and against a much larger number that they're paying. And then for graduate students who are out of state or international, it's 1,100. But we believe all those are responsible recommendations to the board and are reasonable given the financial situation the university finds itself in relative to continuing limited investment from the state and their inability or other decisions that lead them not to spend more. But we're doing our best to keep those costs very controlled for students. And our financial aid is so extensive that most of our undergraduates don't pay anywhere near the sticker price. It's way below that. So I think that generally we've done a good job at controlling the cost, which has resulted in access continuing to be an opportunity for students who wish to come to university. So that's where we're at with that. Tomorrow will be the public hearing on tuition where students and others can weigh in. And then on Thursday, the board will have a committee hearing to discuss all the proposals from the 3 universities. And then the following Thursday, the board will vote in public session on the tuition proposals and make their final decision at that time. So that's where that's at. We don't know where the state's going. We have not yet heard a determination for the state budget. So it will be what it will be, but we continue to advance. The good thing is that we continue to do great things because of the work of faculty and staff and the support people who work at the institution, and we continue to have great success with student success and with our colleagues. And so all that's a credit to everybody, but that's where we're at in terms of cost. Now, one other thing is that we have launched, you probably got an email, I think it kind of came from me, but it might have come from Kevin Salcedo, I'm not quite sure, regarding a climate survey. And I'm going to ask Deb Clark, who I think is in Tempe, to come up and tell us a little bit more about that. So, Deb?
Survey that's designed to try to capture the climate on the ASU campus, since we're always concerned to make sure our community feels as inclusive as possible. And there are a number of questions about people. It goes out to all students and all benefits eligible faculty and staff. There are obviously some differences in the kinds of questions that are asked to each group, but a lot of the questions focus on issues of inclusivity. Have you ever had a problem? Do you know where to report? Did you report? Who did you report to? If you didn't report, why? So a lot of it is also to figure out if people are aware of what the various resources are out there and also what their experience has been. And, we're, as I said, trying to be as proactive as possible in making sure that everyone at ASU feels like they belong, and if they run into issues that they know where to go to try to get them resolved. Any questions?
Any questions from Polytechnic?
We have no questions, thank you.
No. Tempe?
I don't see any questions here.
Okay. West Campus?
How will you tabulate the results, or especially if there are comments, many comments?
The results will be tabulated anonymously. There will, and will only be distributed or only be released in aggregate form so that there is no possibility of identifying any individuals. I believe it's UTO is orchestrating the tabulation.
Thank you.
Any questions from downtown? Hearing no other questions. Thanks, Deb. We appreciate it. Any questions for Provost Steer? Any of the campuses? Okay, well, we'll move along with our informational report. So the next person is Kevin Salcedo, our ASU Vice President of Human Resources, and we've invited him to come and discuss the ASRS and how that will impact us if there are any changes to that system. Thanks, Kevin.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. I wanted to discuss briefly a proposal that we have out to adjust our relationship with the Arizona State Retirement System. So I know it's very exciting stuff, pensions, 3:15 on Monday afternoon, but I'll try to keep it interesting. You all know there's two different types of plans, right, for your retirement. There's the ABOR, Optional Retirement Plan, which is a 401A plan. That's where you contribute 7% of your pay to the plan. The ASU can contribute 7% on your behalf as well. And you make the decision on how the money is invested. That's the ORP, right? The other option that we have is called the ASRS, the Arizona State Retirement System. That's a defined benefit plan. It's a pension plan. In that situation, you contribute about 11.5% of your salary to the plan, and ASU contributes the same. Under the defined pension rules, your money is aggregated with about 500,000 other people, and it's professionally managed by the ASRS. And in anticipation of when you retire, you will have an income that will last you the course of your life. So those are the two fundamental differences: defined contribution or defined benefit is ASRS. So they just get level set on that. The proposal that we have is to no longer offer the ASRS to new hires. That's our first proposal, to no longer offer the ASRS to new hires. The second proposal is to allow people who are not vested in their ASRS employee contribution, that would be people mostly hired within the last 5 years, to opt out of ARS and join the ORP. That's the proposal. The proposal is not to take current participations who are in ASRS out of ASRS and put them into a different type of plan. If you are in the ASRS and you want to continue to be in the ASRS, your benefit is protected by statute. It's almost considered to be a contract with the state. You cannot be changed. So that's the proposal. I can spend about 5 minutes talking about the reasons behind the proposal. Brenda, you want me to?
Yes, please.
Briefly, there's two things that are driving this. One is cost, purely cost. Dr. Searle did a nice job teeing up some of our financial things. The second is cultural. Let me talk about the cost first. As I mentioned, under the ORP, ASU contributes 7% of your pay, and you contribute 7% of your pay. Under ASRS, it's 11.5%. So right there, you have a delta of 4.5%. So if employee A is in one plan, employee B is in the other, we are paying 4.5% more for one person's plan than the other. It's a very costly number over time. Also, what we find with the ASRS is most of the people who are either mandated to go into ASRS or opt to go into ASRS, they tend to be in the lower paid categories between, we'll say, like $40,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And that's a big bite of money. When ASRS was first conceived and first implemented, people were contributing about 2.5%, 3% of their pay to the plan. Now, like I said, it's 11.5%. And that's for a variety of issues that we can talk about some other time. But that contribution rate has gone up dramatically over the last 12 to 15 years. So for a person who's making $40,000 a year, having 11.5% of their money raked out at the beginning of the month, that's a pretty big bite. So there's cost implications for both ASU and the employee. The other issue that drives cost on the ORP, going back to the ORP, the defined benefit plan, is you have to be here 5 years to realize the ASU match. Do you all recall that, unless you brought service from another employer? So if we have an employee, say, who works here for 4 years, and they were contributing to the ORP, and they left, they do not get their ASU match because you have to be here 5 years of the 5-year Winston schedule. So ASU basically does not have to contribute on behalf of that employee. Under the ASRS rules, once an employee qualifies for ASRS, they start making their contribution, and we start making our contribution. But the key difference here is if that employee leaves, they get to take their contribution with them. We don't get our contribution back. Okay? Does everybody see the fundamental difference here? So in many cases, our turnover is centered around people in the 2 to 4 year tenure category. That's where the highest percentage of our turnover is. So for ASRS participants, we're churning through people, we're making contributions on their behalf that they will never benefit from, and we do not get a refund on that. So if you take the contribution delta between 7 and 11.5%, and you consider how these vesting rules work, these numbers roll up to the millions of dollars on an annual basis. So that's the cost. That's the cost. These are real dollars. Now, one thing we have to remember, that the ASRS is an amalgamation of school districts, governments, I believe the community colleges, I may be wrong on that, but we are the only member of the ASRS that I'm aware of that passes 85% of our costs on to our students. In other words, we're not a school district that can just continue to raise taxes to pay for our benefits. As Dr. Searle aptly noted at the beginning of his presentation, we're always under constant pressure to keep our costs under control. Because for what I said earlier, so many of our costs are passed on to tuition payers. So we almost operate like a private enterprise in that 85% of our revenue comes from paying customers. No other ASRS participant has that pressure that we do. Okay? So those are the cost implications for this proposal. The other is cultural. Cultural. Defined benefit plans were basically a device that came into being post-war, 4, 5, 6 decades ago. It was when employers expected you to work for them for your whole working career. Okay. Now, in the last 2 or 3 decades, that notion has been turned on its head. Most people who come to work at ASU will spend probably between 3 and 8 years here. And most younger people will have anywhere between 7 and 9 career changes before they retire. So people coming to ASU, they don't expect to retire from ASU. They're looking for portability in benefits. They want to be able to take their benefit with them to their next employer and aggregate that money with that employer and continue to roll until they retire. There's not an expectation that they're going to be working here for 25 or 30 years. And honestly, in some cases, we don't want people working here for 25 or 30 years. So it's a cultural. If you pay attention to benefits, I'm sure you do, defined benefit plans, pension plans, they started losing favor in the private sector 25 or 30 years ago. And the only people that I'm aware of that hires people into a defined benefit pension plan or maybe some multi-employer union plans and government. Those are the only 2 employers that offer these kind of plans anymore. And we are not a government, by the way. We are not state employees. We are not a state agency. We are a university. So those are the key differences. Now, the reason that I was invited to give you this mini presentation on pension and defined benefit, defined contribution, is because the prospect of ASU pulling out of ASRS has set their teeth on edge. And they have engaged in a very active lobbying campaign against this. They're publishing some materials that are factually incorrect. So we've always tried to correct the record whenever we come across some of these communication materials that we see floating around. They're using scare tactics by saying if ASU pulls out of ASRS, the whole thing's going to unravel. Well, as I mentioned earlier, there's like 550,000 participants in ASRS, and if 1,000 ASU employees opt out, I don't think that's going to really put the benefit at risk. But nevertheless, I think the ASRS is fearful of the precedent. They're fearful of the perception that would be caused by having a major employer pull out. So they've been actively lobbying against this. Is there anything else I can add on this? Any other questions for you? Again, it does not impact current participants. It only impacts future hires. And just so you'll know, about 70% of the people who have the choice 70% of the people who have the choice will take the ORP as opposed to the ASRS.
You're muted.
Kevin, I got a couple of questions. Sure. Can I go to the other campuses first, Brenda?
Yes, you can go ahead.
All right. So I had some communication with Paul Madsen, who's director of ASRS. Uh-huh. And if you could clarify one thing on the vesting. You know, Paul indicates that actually vesting in ASRS is actually immediate, and the employee
only gets back a portion of the employer contribution depending on when they're hired. I didn't follow up with Paul to get the clarification on that. The employee does get back their contribution plus a fixed interest rate.
That's correct.
So can you clarify the?
In 2011, the rules changed so that you have to be in benefit status to get the employer portion of the contribution. Before that, you were like on a graduated vesting schedule. Every year, I believe, you picked up 20% of the employer contribution. But after 2011, you cannot vest in the employer contribution until you take your benefit. So if you leave, if you're hired after 2011 and you leave, you don't get any portion of the employer portion back.
Okay. And then just to clarify a little bit about the employer status, the key reason why pensions are not around in the private sector is that we were to talk about Intel in 50 years. We don't know if Intel will exist. However, we have great confidence that the city of Tempe will exist, the state of Arizona will exist, and ASU will exist. And so consequently, when an entity is expected to be around for a long period of time, they can take advantage of the socializing of benefits and the higher returns that you can get out of a pension system. Would that be accurate?
I think that's accurate to a degree. However, the question is, what portion of your revenue do you want to spend on benefits? That's the question. If you see it right now, in the biggest debate in the public employment arena is an inordinate amount of budgets that are going to pay for police pensions, firefighter pensions.
Right, but
and so some cities are actually making the decision between closing libraries and parks and meeting their pension obligations.
But we're not talking about the public service pension system. That's entirely different from ASRS.
I agree.
ASRS is a 50-50 split. Now, the final thing is, Paul also indicated that ASU has not been very communicative to ASRS about this particular issue. Is that something that ASU is going to be working on, or not? You indicated that ASRS has not been completely accurate with what they've put forward. You're correct. ASRS does see this as a potential threat, but ASU has not been particularly communicative to ASRS. Is that something that's going to
I've been in touch with the public affairs people. I've not talked to the director.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Judith? Okay, do we have any questions from downtown? No questions. Moving to West Campus. Do we have any questions?
We don't have any questions.
All right, moving to Polytechnic. Do you have any questions?
No questions here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kevin. We really appreciate you coming and providing us with this update.
Hello. Hi, I'm Jackie Wheeler from the English department.
From what department?
The English department. I'm one of those disagreeable people who's been here for 25 years and will be retiring in the ASRS system hopefully soon. So I'm certainly very concerned about this proposal. I do know, and this does not come from ASRS propaganda, I do know that ASRS is one of the better funded pension systems in the nation. And I'm certainly concerned that if a large employer such as ASU pulls out, it will jeopardize all that I've worked for all these years. So I thought you should look someone like me in the face and realize that there is certainly concern about this proposal and what its outcomes will be.
Well, I'm respectful of your concerns. Again, I'll make 2 points. One is your pension benefits is guaranteed by law and contract. It can't be changed. Number 2, as I mentioned, we have about 6,000 total ASRS participants at ASU. If we gave the people the ability to opt out, that's about 2,000. My assumption is about half of those would opt out, so that's 1,000. So taking 1,000 members out of a 550,000 member pool, I don't think is going to really put the benefit at risk, to be honest with you.
Although perhaps they might not opt out given the state of the recent state of the stock market, which governs the other kinds of plans.
That's true. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's different risks associated with different plans. There's with the defined contribution plan, you're putting investment risk onto employees. There's no doubt about that. And there are different plans, and there's pros and cons for both.
So we have questions from West Campus.
I do have a question after all. So this is Mary Burleson, and I represent Social and Behavioral Sciences in New College. I was wondering, you made a comment that sometimes you don't want people to be employed for 25 years, and I wasn't sure whether that was particular people that you might want to get rid of, or if there's some reason why it's problematic for people to stay here for a long period of time.
Well, I probably was inartful in my phrasing of that, but I do know that we have a lot of people who hang around so they can get their pension. That's the reality. I've been in human resources for 30 years, and it's reality. You have people who, they're just hanging around so they get their points in.
You mean they don't work?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying they could be, they could just be hanging around to get their pension, and it happens. I'm not saying that's a huge problem, but it happens.
What?
Did that answer your question?
Not exactly. But it's okay.
Well, I don't want to put words in Kevin's mouth, but I think he was alluding to the fact that sometimes people may have just maybe 3-4 years to retirement, and they're not as productive as they were at the beginning of their career, and so they're kind of riding the wave until they can retire. Not saying that this is the majority of people, but it's like any institution. Sometimes people are just waiting to make that last move, and so they're just waiting so that they can get their benefits.
Yeah, and it's, again, it's called negative retention, and it's a small portion, but we do see it.
Okay. Any other questions for Kevin?
I'll make one final comment. Again, I want to thank you for the invitation. And these benefit proposals are not meant as takeaways. They're not meant to save money on the backs of employees. They're meant to ensure that we're getting maximum value for our benefits dollar investment. And that's what we seek to do. If you have any questions, send me an email. And again, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it. Okay, next we will invite Jeffrey Wilson, who is our faculty athletics representative, to give a small report. And then also we have a new ASU volleyball coach, Stevie Mussey, and she's going to join Jeffrey.
Can you hear me? As I told you last year when I made my first presentation, I'm not going to give you a lot of Excel spreadsheets about how the athletic department is doing. As a matter of fact, I'm still learning what athletics mean. Until recently, I thought cross-country was all the kids would be running across the country. And I just also, I went to a wrestling meet, and I thought when you are below, that's a bad thing. And I learned that that's not a bad thing. So I'm still learning. To tell you I know nothing about sports, but I'm here to tell you about academic side of the athletics department. We are in good hands. As you know, you must have read that we're about 84% is our graduation rate, and we are second to Stanford. We are doing really well. We do have some problems that I'll tell you about in a little bit, but especially the female side of athletics, it's going great academically. We have a lot of our students in the Barrett Honors program, and across the board we are doing really well. As far as finances are concerned, in the Pac-12 we are about 8 or 9 in terms of resources that we put into academics, but in terms of what we get back for it, we are second. And so I think you will be happy to know in terms of the Pac-12, we are spending our money very wisely. One of the things that as a Senate you could continue to help with, and I know our provost has taken that under his wings to correct, we still have serious problems in the classroom when an athlete has to go to a meet, has to go to an event, and that event coincides with an exam or with some kind of exercise. And the student athlete, up to this morning, I just forwarded another situation to the provost, who is very quick about taking care of these things, where a student athlete is going to the Olympics trials. And after the Olympics trials, and the faculty member is saying, well, your exam, you cannot have an exam. The student wanted to go early. No, you can't get it early. You can't get it late. You will just miss that exam, and you miss the lab, and so you'll fail. And so, but what I noticed, that this is not coming from tenured faculty. The problems are just rampant, and I get one of these regularly, and it's really with the non-tenured faculty. So as part of the Senate, and like me, you value education to the fullest, and we are talking about educating the student athlete, and the student athlete grade point average is just out of the, up in the sky. If you could help by educating those non-tenured people, those people who are in the department and they don't necessarily understand that this is university business, if you could help say that along the way by the water fountain, on your way to the union, to buy yourself a Chick-fil-A sandwich or whatever, it really would help, because the provost will have one less request coming from me to deal with. There were one of the things today I decided that rather than give you those Excel spreadsheets, I will bring you a little closer to athletics. And so I thought that I'll ask one of our recent hired coaches, who is in one of the Olympic sports, in volleyball, if she would come and take part of the time that I have to present, and if she can talk a little bit with you and introduce herself. So before I turn over to her, do you have any questions for me? And if the answers are long questions, you can email me, jeffrey.wilson@asu.edu. But if you have any short questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Yes, Downtown has a question.
Hi, this is LaDawn Hagland from Justice and Social Inquiry. I'm just wondering, when you say untenured, do you mean people that are not tenured yet, or do you mean people that are not on tenured track, like graduate students teaching courses, or FAs, or lecturers?
Thanks for the question. Yes, it's the latter. It's the people who are not on a tenure track. We're not talking about our junior people. We're talking about the ones who are not on a tenure track.
Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeffrey. Any questions for Tempe? Moving. There is. Okay. You said yes or no? Okay. Moving to Polytechnic. Do you have any questions?
No questions here.
Okay. West Campus?
No questions at West.
Okay. Thanks, Jeffrey. So if you would introduce the coach and have her come forward.
Jeffrey already bailed on me up here, okay?
Oh.
I brought him along. He wasn't going to come at all. He was just going to send me to the wolves. First and foremost, thank you to everyone for allowing me to be here today. It is an Olympic year, like Jeffrey said, and it's a huge, huge year for volleyball especially. Our men's and our women's teams, our beach teams, men and women's, are the best in the world. So for us to have the opportunity to kind of fulfill you guys and fill you in on what volleyball is all about, and especially here at ASU, I thank you for that. The way that I ended up at ASU is I was most recently at Penn State. While I was there, we won a national championship in 2014. I coached the National Player of the Year and the National Freshman of the Year. Had most to do with the National Freshman of the Year because if any of you ever watch volleyball, she's this tall, long-legged blonde who you wouldn't know. She had no clue what's going on the majority of the time, I can promise you, but she is an unbelievable player and an athlete in person. Before that, I was at the University of Virginia. Before that, I was at North Carolina State, and then I started my career at the University of Colorado in Boulder. So back then, they were in the Big 12, and now it's nice to see that they're in the Pac-12. And I completed my playing career at the University of Washington, but before that, I was an outside hitter at University of the Pacific in Stockton, California. So my life has been West Coast forever, and my parents booted me to the East Coast, and now they're happy to have me back after the last few years. I'm lucky also because they live in the area, about an hour and a half from here, so it's kind of a little bit of a homecoming for me as we've had our home for about 15 years. So when I talk about ASU volleyball, I am technically the director of volleyball. I oversee the indoor team and the beach team. Right now we have an interim head coach who is doing a fabulous job because she's our director of volleyball operations indoor, and she's the head of the beach team. So she is my right hand and is doing an unbelievable job. Right now they are ranked somewhere towards the middle of the pack right now, and they are 7-5 overall, which is exactly what their record was at the end of last season. So they're headed to Hawaii on Thursday. If anybody wants to go, we have an extra ticket. No, I'm just kidding. They are really, really excited to go there because they'll play Hawaii and UCLA. And our ones team has a good shot for sure at beating some people. So that will be exciting for them. And after that, they head to Stanford. So whenever you get to play Stanford and UCLA back-to-back weekends, you can definitely see the urgency that's out there at the beach. We also have an unbelievable facility that has been kind of granted or grandfathered to us by, called Para, and we will be playing the University of Arizona out there on April 16th, and I highly, highly recommend that you guys come out and check it out. Or that weekend, pardon me, is San Diego State. And then I'll send you the weekend for when we play U of A because it's a great experience. You get to sit in the sand, watch the girls play, and watch them beat that other school down south, as you all call them. So a little bit about where we are with our indoor team right now. We are in our 20 hours a week right now. I told everybody last time I saw them, we had a kid throw up, came back, got after it. It was all good. Today we had a kid trip, hit her nose on a chair, and I'm sure at some point it's going to be broken, but she'll be all right. It didn't make any sense. We joked with her. We're like, what were you doing over there? She goes, I really thought I was going to get it. And she was about 25 feet away from it. But we respect her effort, and we're excited about where we're headed. Right now, the girls will tell you this is the hardest spring season they've ever had. And at times, they think they're not going to be able to make it, and they actually have made it just fine. So also with that, they have had the opportunity, or they'll have the opportunity next week, or pardon me, Saturday, to head down to U of A to play, and then 2 weeks later we'll head down to UNLV to play some matches. So I think for them it's a great time in college athletics. I mean, it's March Madness, you know, so for us we're in our own little mini March Madness as we get to the tail end of our spring season for indoor. I want you guys to know a little bit about my philosophies for volleyball. I want this to be inclusive, and that's kind of the main word I heard when I came to interview here is you guys are about inclusion and making sure that everyone is a part of what was going on. And that to me is so, so special because it's not just volleyball over here doing their own thing. It's you guys here that enable them to go and do their own thing over here. So that for us is so, so important. We have an overall GPA of a 3.4, and our girls kick butt in the classroom, to be completely honest with you. They're not a group of kids who we have to concern ourselves with over time, but they also understand, and you understand the ones that we do have to keep a better eye on, and I thank all of you for everything that you've done for them, because a lot of them are in your offices because they don't quite understand or they want to be that A-plus student, and they're striving to do whatever it is that allows them to be that A-plus student. I think that's about all I have for you guys. I want you guys to all be a part of volleyball. It's not just you sitting here and listening to my spiel about our program. It's about the fact that we're trying to implement something right now. It's called the honorary coaches. So every match, one of our athletes will pick a professor that they are really close with or that they've really connected with, and that coach will be honored at the beginning of our match. Because as I said, it's not just us, it's all of you guys that are a part of it. So I will send that out, and our girls will also, I'm sure, be letting you know if they have you in your class. And if you have any questions for me throughout this program, and Jeffrey does an unbelievable job kind of facilitating and being the middleman for the athletics and the faculty, and I thank him for what he does as well. So are there any questions for me?
Any questions from downtown? No? Any questions from
all girls to play, by the way?
All right. Any questions from Tempe? Any questions from West Campus?
No questions from West.
Any questions from Polytechnic?
Yes.
Yes, this is Heidi McElroy from the College of Letters and Science. Do we have any athletes going to the Olympics?
Oh, that's a fabulous question. We at this time do not, but one of our volunteer assistants is in the process of kind of getting healthy to give it a run. She just recently had knee surgery, so we're hoping that she can get back on track and attend her second Olympics. So I can tell you my staff is unbelievable. The beach people have an Olympics in their back pocket. Our Deb Rose, our assistant coach at the beach, played in '96 in Atlanta. My assistant for indoor is fluent in 5 or 6 languages and is from Serbia and probably should have gone to the Olympics, but they were upset with her for coming to the States. And now Tamari will have the opportunity to attend her second Olympic Games.
Thank you. So if there are no other questions, if we would thank Jeffrey Wilson and also Stevie Mussey for taking their time to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will move on to the UAC Chairs Report. So I attended the Pac-12 Academic Leadership Coalition meeting in Tucson, February 26th to the 28th at the University of Arizona, and along with myself, President-elect Kathleen Puckett attended. Charles Barbie, who is our Pac-12 ALC Executive Director, Helene Osipov, who is our ASU's member at large, and then also Pamela Hoyle, who is our ASU Senate Administrative Specialist. So just to give people a brief history who may not know what the Pac-12 ALC is that in the fall of 2011, several of the shared governance leaders got together that were part of the Pac-12 institutions and wanted to have a focus on shared governance. And so therefore, it has now evolved into a formal Pac-12 committee that now has bylaws. And so our mission of this group is to really improve the effectiveness and responsiveness of each member school's shared governance organization and where commonalities occur to facilitate academic and research cooperation that is jointly beneficial to the participating institutions. So in the Pac-12, we have 12 schools. One school has opted not to become a part of the group, and that's Stanford, because their shared governance is a little bit different than the other schools. So they have opted out. So during the conference, there were a couple things that we wanted to achieve, and that was to go back and make sure our bylaws fit our mission. So we did a couple of revisions, so now our bylaws have been amended, and they'll be up for review soon. But we also wanted to see what kinds of issues are occurring across the various universities that we could all kind of get behind. And some of the top things that came out of that was that we all have issues with climate, campus climate, so looking at diversity and a variety of things in comparison to what's happening across the nation. Also academic freedom, because that's been a concern across the nation, and also open access. And those are just a few of the things that we've talked about. And so in the fall, we're going to have a committee that will, ad hoc committee that will look at open access and what we should be doing here at ASU. So a couple other things is that we don't have any funds. So we discussed how we could get some operating costs. And so the provost will hear more from me later. And also we have a need for somebody to be a part-time staff member who can actually manage the web page, because currently right now people are doing it just on their own time in addition to their other responsibilities. And so we really need somebody that we could hire part-time. And we also have to find a home for our web page and the documents that we want to post there. So currently it is housed on the wpcarey.asu.edu. It's a blog there, and so we know we can't maintain that space forever, so we need to find somebody that will house it permanently. And so next year, one of the things that we try to do is have a conference, usually in the spring, but the conference is going to be at University of Colorado at Boulder. So, you know, that could be tricky to go there in the spring. So they're going to actually move the conference to the fall. So they will host the conference next fall. And we'll have people, the member at large, the person who will be our president of the Senate will be there. Chuck will be there. So we will be well represented. And the other thing that we voted on at that meeting was to also have a second member at large so that there will always be someone that knows what's going on, because currently the president of the Senate only served for 1 year. And then if we had somebody that was just a member at large who's serving 3 years, so we would lose all that history. So we're trying to find a way to constantly have some continuity that people will always be representing us. So that's the highlights of what's going on with the Pac-12 Academic Leadership Coalition. So any questions about that? Next, I want to announce our March recipient of the Senate Spotlight, who is Dr. Judy Kreisig from the School of Social Work in the College of Public Service and Community Solutions at the downtown campus. She's been with the university for 11 years. She's participated on various committees, specifically the search for the graduate dean that was held in the fall, and also she's done a wonderful job in assisting us with the Committee on Committees. When we asked her the question, why did you decide to get involved with the Senate, she responded, I was nominated by my colleagues and thought it would be a great opportunity to learn more about a different level of university operations. Then we asked her, what would you say to your peers who might be considering accepting a nomination or nominating themselves for a position on the Senate? And she responded, participating on the Senate is a great way to meet colleagues from other departments and campuses, and it provides opportunities for interaction with ASU administration and regents, and that she's learned so much about the operations of ASU, and she's developed a greater awareness of issues of higher education in general. So, congratulations, Dr. Kreisig. And then just a couple other things that I wanted to report. I did meet with Gordon Washon, who is the Chief Information Officer, and also Tina Thorstensen, who is the Chief Information Security Officer, regarding ASU system security and monitoring. And if you remember, Tina came and spoke to us back in the fall, and when she came, she discussed the two-factor authentication. Get it out. And so I'm happy to report that we are moving forward with that, and so that will start this summer, and it's just going to be department by department until we get everybody up to speed. And so just look for additional information from your particular departments about when you will move into that process. The other thing they wanted me to share with you is to also be sure to review ACD 125 regarding what's acceptable for people when they use their email or any network activities. So there have been some rumors that they thought when we changed to this new process that the university would be spying on you and reading your email and all these things, and that is not true. But ACD 125 does give you the guidelines as to when or if they feel like there's a need to intercept or review somebody's use of the system and what happens. So if you just be sure to review that, I'd be happy. And then also I'm going to be attending the ABOR meeting on April 6th through the 8th with Chris Kaselka, who is Secretary to the Senate, Helene Osipov, who is the past president of Tempe campus, and Donna Cataldo, who is the president-elect of the downtown campus. So we will be going to that meeting. So we will, I will be reporting back at the next Senate meeting. So any questions for me in regards to my report? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to the new business.
Brenda,
and yes,
we have a clarification here from Deb Clark.
Oh, okay. Yes, Deb.
offer a quick correction. It's not UTO that is gathering the data. It's the Office of Educational Evaluation. I think that's the name of it. Yeah, sorry, I still get confused as to who works with what office. But
Okay, thanks. We appreciate that. Okay, so the next motion I'm going to bring is motion 2016-56, which is a resolution to support for the health plan benefits that provide transgender services for faculty and staff. And the reason that this is coming forward is that it's come to our attention that faculty and staff do not have these health benefits. We, as a Senate, cannot force these benefits, but what we would like to do is move this resolution forward so that ASU, NAU, and U of A stand strong, that all three universities have a resolution that support bringing these health plan benefits so that they can present this to the Board of Regents. So I need to have a motion to suspend the rules. Okay. Kristen has a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, Sandra, second. Okay, so now we need to vote, and I need 2/3 majority for the suspension of the rules. Okay, if we could go ahead and get the results. Okay, 68 yes. 11 no.
14 no.
Oh, 14 no, I'm sorry.
14 no. 4 abstain.
And 4 abstentions. We've got somebody that abstained. So with that, so we have a motion to suspend the rules. So I'll go ahead and read the resolution. It's introduced by the University Academic Council, so we don't need a second. And it's being introduced today for our first and only read and for a vote. And so the title of the resolution is Support for Health Plan Benefits that Provide Transgender Services for Faculty and Staff, whereas Arizona State University supports and fosters an environment of inclusion, and whereas the University Senate, representing all faculty members and academic professionals at ASU, wishes to express its support for policy initiatives that further enhance our diverse and inclusive environment. And whereas it has come to the attention of the University Senate that transgendered faculty and staff and their dependents do not have health plan benefit options that provide them transgender services. Be it resolved that the University Senate of Arizona State University encourages the expansion of health plan benefit options that would provide transgender services to those individuals and their dependents, including but not limited to gender confirmation surgery, hormone replacement therapy, and gender-related counseling. And I did want to just let you know that Provost Cyril wanted me to make sure that I was clear that even though we'll be presenting it to the Board of Regents, it's really the state that makes the decision in regards to health plan benefits, but we just want to stand united as the three universities being presented to the Board of Regents. Okay, so if we could call for the vote.
Brenda, can we have discussion first?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, okay. Do we have any discussion? Tempe?
No one at the mics here.
Okay. West Campus?
Yes, if we, this is Martin McCuskey, if we unplug from the state health system and go on our own, then we can make the decision ourselves, correct?
Yes, but currently we don't have that option.
There is a motion for that as well, right, on the table somewhere along the way.
Well, there's discussion at the Board of Regents had a discussion at our last board meeting, but nothing has officially been proposed yet to the state in regards to our uncoupling from the system.
Well, it's good to know that because it is a consideration.
Yes, because currently NAU has the opportunity to provide these benefits because they are not part of the same health plan that we have at U of A and ASU. But they are still standing with us, and they have written a resolution even though they do have those benefits. Our students have those benefits as a result of their insurance, but faculty and staff do not. Any questions or discussion at Polly?
None here.
Okay, anything from downtown? Okay, now I guess, since there's no further discussion, I can call for the question. So please take out your clickers. We have yes, no, and abstain. Okay, can we have the results, Chuck? Okay, 75 yeses. Is that 8? 8. 8 noes and 4 abstain. So it looks like the motion, resolution carries. So, thank you. Okay, now I will ask Stephen Simpkins, who's chair of the CAPC. He's got several motions to present for CAPC for a first read. So remember that with first read, there's no discussion at this point. So Stephen, if you would come forward.
Thanks, Linda. Yes, this week the CAPC has 14 curricular motions to vote on at its regular meeting this coming Thursday, March 31st, 10:45 a.m. in Interdisciplinary B, room 365, and they are the following. Senate Motion 2016-41, request from the College of Public Service and Community Solutions, School of Criminology and Criminal Justice for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate in criminal investigations. Senate Motion 2016-42, request from the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, School of Film, Dance, and Theater for the establishment of a graduate certificate in dance teaching artist praxis. Senate Motion 2016-43, request from the Thunderbird School of Global Management for the establishment of a graduate certificate in global finance. Senate Motion 2016-44, request from the Thunderbird School of Global Management for the establishment of a graduate certificate in global trade and commerce. Senate Motion 2016-45, request from the College of Health Solutions Dean's Office for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate in health science for the Peace Corps. Senate Motion 2016-46, request from the College of Health Solutions School for the Science of Healthcare Delivery for the establishment of a graduate certificate in Science of Healthcare Delivery. Senate Motion 2016-47, request from the College of Health Solutions and the Dean's Office for the establishment of a graduate degree in Manager of Integrated Healthcare. Senate Motion 2016-48, request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning for the establishment of a graduate certificate in social science research methods. Senate Motion 2016-49, request from the IRA Fulton Schools of Engineering, the Polytechnic School, for the disestablishment of an undergraduate degree, which is the BS in Industrial and Organizational Psychology. Senate Motion 2016-50, request from the Thunderbird School of Global Management for the establishment of a graduate certificate in global marketing. Senate Motion 2016-51, request from the School for the Future of Innovation in Society for the establishment of a graduate certificate in global development and innovation. Senate Motion 2016-53, request from the College of Letters and Sciences for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate in wildlife management. Senate Motion 2016-54, request from the College of Letters and Sciences for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Applied Quantitative Science. And Senate Motion 2016-55, request from the Thunderbird School of Global Management for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, the BS in International Trade. In addition, we also have 20 CAPC information items, which you're welcome to look at in Appendix A. If you have any feedback or questions on any CAPC new business, please send it to me at semken@asu.edu, and please put CAPC in the subject line of all emails. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Okay, so moving on to old business. So, Steve, it looks like we have new course proposal consent agenda that was sent out on March 14th. So this comes from committee. So again, we don't need a second, but we do need to go ahead and vote. So if we could vote for, I think it's 52, right? That's right. Senate motion 2016-52, new courses proposal consent agenda. I guess first I need to make sure that no one wants anything pulled from the consent agenda. Anybody from Tempe want any courses pulled?
No one here.
Okay. West Campus?
No.
Polytechnic?
Nothing here.
Okay. Downtown? Okay, so all the courses remain on the consent agenda, so now I think we are ready to vote. Okay, check if we can see the result.
Hang on 1 second, Brenda, okay?
Okay. Okay, let's say 88.
That's right.
Okay, 88 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstain. Who are you, Mr. Abstainer or Ms. Abstainer? I'm looking for you. So anyway, it looks like the motion carries. Okay, moving on, we have Keith Hollinger, who is the chair of the Student Faculty Policy Committee, has presented a motion that's related to the I-courses. And so, Keith, if you could just make your motion, and that it's coming from committee, so therefore we don't need a second.
So you want me to read it again?
Just the title.
Okay. The motion is limiting the number of I-courses for first-time, full-time freshman students.
Okay, so discussion, anyone from Tempe?
Yes, we have a couple of people who want to talk about this.
Okay, great.
Anitra Koina from the School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences. When I first read this motion, I thought it was a good idea. But then I found out that there's already a policy that forbids 100-level I courses campus-wide. Starting already this spring, those courses are no longer offered. So if this motion passes, we would have both a ban on 100-level I courses as well as restriction on the courses taken by freshmen. So I have 2 questions. The first one is whether there is any data as to why students are more likely to fail in an I course. Do we know whether it's due to lack of academic ability or independence, in which case the 100-level ban will be sufficient, or whether it's due to inexperience? I know that there are many freshmen who can, on an accelerated programs, who can handle 200-level I courses and beyond. And the other question is about logistics. particularly, I wonder if we will have enough classrooms to accommodate for the increased number of face-to-face sections, having both 100 level course restriction ban and the limitation for freshmen will make it even more difficult to accommodate all constraints without stretching way into the evenings or maybe even Saturdays.
Keith, do you want to field those questions? Or someone from your committee?
I'm not sure what you mean by another restriction. We're not familiar with any other restrictions. It might be specific to your college, perhaps.
It might be. My unit was given directions already starting this spring. We are not offering any 100 level courses at all. So for sure it's for class. I don't know for the rest of the university.
Okay, we have not had that at any of the other campuses, or that I have not heard that policy. And we are still offering 100 level courses on the Polytechnic campus for certain. The
100 level
the data does demonstrate that freshman students do not perform as well in online courses. And one of the other concerns beyond that is also Tempe may not have the issue and downtown may not have the issue, but some of the other campuses, Polytechnic and West, have an issue with students who enroll and they come to ASU, but they never actually attend a class face-to-face. I know that downtown has an issue with classroom space, and I don't know about Tempe for certain.
So this policy will make that issue even worse. I mean, I just don't understand the rationale behind it.
The issue is supporting freshman students who do not have the experience necessary to succeed in an online class, and it is also meant to support the campuses where there has been a history of students only taking iCourses. Additionally, the evidence supports that freshman students do need extra support, and the classroom environment is the way to get that. This motion does not apply to courses required by a unit or a major, and it also, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Second part was about logistics. Do we have enough classrooms to fit all those freshmen that would, I mean, especially considering, as I said, that we already have a ban campus-wide for all 100 level courses.
That is not campus-wide as far as I know. We have not heard anything about that. Maybe somebody in Tempe could answer that question.
By any chance, is Fred at the meeting in Tempe?
No, Fred is not here.
Oh, okay. Basically, why the motion came forward was that we wanted to make sure that first-time, full-time freshmen would be able to be retained because most, the evidence does suggest that most of these students, that if they're not being successful or they're not engaged in the academic environment, don't tend to stay. And so we're trying to make sure that our retention from freshmen to sophomore, continues to increase. We do know that there are exceptions to the rule, and we're not trying to legislate the implementation piece. We just want to make sure that people understand that first-time, full-time freshmen typically are not able to do well in these courses because they don't have the support. Now, there's an exception to every rule, so it's not to say every student, but we would strongly discourage those first-time, full-time freshmen from enrolling in iCourses.
I totally understand the rationale, and as I said, I was for it, but if we put this motion together with the 100 level iCourse ban, to me it seems too much. Now, it might be restricted to class. Certainly it's not restricted to my unit only. It wouldn't make any sense. It's coming from the dean, at least. So.
At the moment, we don't have others that are coming forward. So I would go back to your dean and see what's going on with your particular school.
Additionally, if CLAS
just a second.
100
Hang on.
West Campus.
Oh, this is Mary Burleson again. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, could we hear more about this campus-wide ban on 100-level I-courses? Because I don't think we can vote on this other thing until we find out about what's going on with this campus-wide ban on 100-level I-courses. I've never heard of that either.
Right. We don't have any knowledge of that.
Brenda, Barry would like to speak to some of that.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. I'm trying to wire brush the context in my memory here. I think I recall there was such a ban put in place a couple provosts ago. And so it would probably be best to wait to hear from Fred Corey as to whether and what the particulars of that ban were. The concerns that Keith and others have mentioned were certainly discussed at that time. It was found that that there was a higher failure rate or an incompletion rate. There were a number of issues with completing those courses for freshmen and so forth. And so I think it would probably be wise to wait until we can get some feedback as to what the current policy is. I haven't been able to bring it up, and I haven't been able to get Fred on my phone yet.
Keith, I think, did Fred attend your meetings when you put this motion together?
Fred wanted it to extend all the way to seniors. He wanted to limit juniors, sophomores, and seniors as well, so that only seniors would be able to take a full menu of online courses.
Okay.
From that. We reduced the restrictions from that.
Okay.
We've got another question here.
Okay.
It's not a question. I'm speaking against the amendment as written. My name is Denise Bodman. I'm from School of Social and Family Dynamics. To me, it seems too restrictive. I would like to see more of the actual evidence that these students are having an issue. I know that many students today are taking online courses even in high school. That Rio Salado is making a living doing online courses for people who are freshmen. And I have personally had students who have been injured or ill who are coming, who want to continue to school. One of my friends, his son has a virus that is kind of like polio, and it has knocked him out for a year, but the only thing that is keeping him going forward is that he can take online classes. I think we have a very diverse student body of freshmen, and so I wonder about having this type of amendment that essentially says you can only take one and that's it.
Thank you. Then we have someone from downtown that has a question.
So if the limitation was put into place, how many students does that affect? In other words, how much more capacity do we need for classroom space?
In regards to the actual numbers, would depend on how many students are enrolled that year. So we can give you a specific at this time as to how many students, because they fall in various categories, because some students would transfer in with some credits, and so technically they may be like a first-time, full-time freshman, but if you transfer in credits, then you're going to be not a true first-time, full-time freshman. So we know there were some of those kind of nuances, and like I said, we were just trying to make it something that was palatable in terms of moving this motion forward and focusing just on the freshmen versus trying to go through and legislate through all the levels of students. Anything else from your committee or anyone else want to speak to your motion, Keith?
What was I going to say again?
We also have another question or another statement down here.
Okay.
Yes, Helena Ospov. I'm the senator from School of International Letters and Cultures and also past president of the Tempe campus. And I just have a question. Actually, it's aimed at Barry and Deb. Maybe they can answer it. I remember that this issue of restricting the number of I-courses is something that's come up over and over again. I remember there was something last year or the year before. But my question has to do with the definition of full-time, first-time freshmen. If students come in with Rio Salado credit, for instance, which they get from dual enrollment, do they then count as first-time, full-time freshmen? Because that's a question for Barry and Deb. Do you know how we define, or is it people who have never, ever had any kind of college course before? Okay, so that was my feeling also. So it would not affect students who have taken courses online through Rio. Well, actually, if they take them through Rio Salado through dual enrollment, they're not necessarily online. So that's something that we have to be careful about.
Elaine, would you share with us their response as to what is a first-time, full-time freshman?
Okay, what Barry said was, what Barry and Deb said is probably we have to call in Fred Corey and get a definition, but Barry's sense is that if students come in with transfer credits, they are not first-time freshmen. If you come in with credits from somewhere else.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or other points of discussion? Okay. Well, I'd like to go ahead and call for the question, and we can go from there. So if we could call for the question, Chuck. Yes, no, or abstain. Okay, if we could call for the result. Okay, looks like 32 yes, 41 no, and 10 abstain. So the motion does not carry. Thanks, Keith. So if we could move to your next motion. If you could read it, please.
That's motion 2016-40. Miss classes and assignments due to active duty reserve military or first responder line of duty activities.
It comes from committee, so we don't need a second. So any discussion? Tempe?
I don't see any discussion here.
Okay. West Campus? Polytechnic?
No questions.
Okay. Downtown? Okay. Looks like we can call for the question. You ready for the results, Chuck? Okay, looks like 78 yes, 2 no, and 3 abstain. So looks like the motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Okay, if Steve would come back and go over the CAPC consent agenda with us. It comes from committee, so we don't need a second. So, Steve, if you could just read the...
Sure. These are the 6 curricular motions that were passed by CAPC on its consent agenda at the last meeting on February 25th. Senate Motion 2016-33, request from the College of Health Solutions, School for the Science of Healthcare Delivery, for the establishment of a graduate degree, MS in Transitional Biomedical Sciences. Senate Motion 2016-34, request from the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, School of Sustainable Engineering in the Built Environment, for the disestablishment of a graduate certificate in Sustainable Technology and Management. Senate Motion 2016-35, request from the School for the Future of Innovation in Society for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate Innovation for Impact. Senate Motion 2016-36, request from the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, School of Music, for the establishment of a graduate certificate in music theory pedagogy. Senate Motion 2016-37, request from the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts for the establishment of a graduate degree, the MA in Creative Enterprise and Cultural Leadership. And Senate Motion 2016-38, request from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, Division of Education Leadership and Innovation, for the establishment of a graduate certificate in advanced analytics in higher education. All 6 of these motions were passed on the consent agenda by CAPC.
Okay. Does anyone want any of the items removed from the agenda? Hearing none, then we will call for the vote. Yes, no, and abstain. Okay, Chuck, please go ahead and post the results. Okay. Let's see, 79 yes, 0 no, and 5 abstain. So looks like the motion carries. Thanks, Steve. Okay, so moving on to committee report. It looks like Oscar's ill today, so we won't have a personnel committee report. Keith, do you have anything to report from the Student Faculty Policy Committee?
But there's nothing new to report right now.
Okay. Committee on Committee, Chris?
The Academic Assembly elections are going to be held on Wednesday, April 13th. The assemblies will be notified by email, and voting will take place online. Currently, the list of candidates you will find them on the University Senate website. The plan is to conclude elections, and results will be announced at the end of April. And then there's another item pertaining to the committee, and that is in regards to the Spring Preference Survey. This survey will be mailed out to all faculty and academic professionals, and it's a questionnaire where people can volunteer for serving on the committees that are found on the provost roster of boards, committees, and councils. So look for that survey in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. And Arnie, do you have anything from the Research and Creative Activities Committee?
At this time, we anticipate being able to make recommendations to OCAD on both issues that have come up. That's archiving and reproducibility. We should have those together by next month.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now it's time for open forum for the good of the order, and I know a few people have some items that they want to bring forward. So let's start with the Tempe campus.
We have someone coming to the, we have a couple of different people coming to the microphone.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Salcedo. I am a senior undergraduate student in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and I want to thank you for your time I wanted to share with you all, with the body, talk to you about an issue that affects students here and let you know that you all have the power to help mitigate this issue. I'm part of a student organization called Students for Sensible Drug Policy. We're an international grassroots network of students dedicated to ending the drug war. We see the impact that drug abuse has on our communities, but we know that drug prohibition as a policy is failing our society and our generation, especially students. And so with my activism in SSDP, I wanted to come here and talk to you all about underage drinking and overdoses. On average, the CDC reports that 18,000 students don't come home from their freshman year because of alcohol or drug-related overdose accidents. And in recent years, overdose deaths outnumber car accidents for the number of fatal accident injuries in this country. Somebody overdoses on opiate drugs or heroin every 19 minutes. So think about how many people have probably died from overdose in the time that we've been here in this meeting. Now, with the morbid information I've just given you, I want to let you know how you all can help. As senators in the university, you can pass a motion in support of something called a Good Samaritan policy, also known as safe reporting of overdoses or a medical amnesty policy. Basically, a 911 Good Samaritan policy is a life-saving measure that enables people to make responsible decisions by shielding them from punishment when they call for help during an emergency relating to alcohol or other drugs. Since the threat of punitive policies can often cause hesitation during confusing and stressful situations, the existence of a 911 Good Samaritan policy is essential to ensuring that people are able to stay alive and receive help when they're in trouble. Now, I've spoken with the chief of ASU Police, and he said that this is something he supports. Chief Thompson said this is something he supports. I've talked with Dr. Krasnow, who is in ASU Health Services and Counseling, and he supports this. And I've talked with Dr. Matt Brown in Residential Life, and he supports this as well. So if you would bring a motion forward to the Student Faculty Policy Committee or to otherwise discuss this with the body, I think that we could have a big impact in bringing it forward to the Board of Regents or otherwise changing the Student Code of Conduct to make this part of ASU's policies.
Sarah, we're definitely going to be referring it to the Student Faculty Policy Committee.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hosley. And just so you all know, your colleagues at NAU have already started the motions to bring this measure on their campus. So it would be really great, I think, if we could have a coalition between all of the universities to help save students' lives. Passing a Good Samaritan policy sends the message that we as a university care more about the lives of our students than we do about following rules in cases of life-threatening emergencies. And so again, I want to thank you all for your time. And if you're interested in knowing more about Good Samaritan policies that have been enacted on campuses across the country, or if you want to know more about my activism in ending the drug war, you can contact me at slsauced@asu.edu, or if you're in Tempe, you can talk to me after this meeting. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Dan McCarville. I'm from the Fulton Schools of Engineering, and I'm on the, over in Cincy, and I'm on the Student Faculty Policy Committee. And I asked to do a little bit of a show and tell today, actually, especially for all of you who brought a laptop to the meeting and have it up and running. So I'd like you to kind of get to Google, go over and get to Google. I'm going to ask Chuck to bring up a particular site that we already talked about, but go to Google. Go to Google. It's like talking to students. Anyway, go and then type in your course. Type in a course number. You know, for me it's IEE space 572, and then put space exams and hit the go button. Just type in one of your favorite courses. Type in, give it a space, and type in exams or materials or something like that. Right. So when I do IEE 572, I brought up. This is the materials that show up. And, you know, by the way, do me another favor. You get a list there. Look for the one that's from Course Heroes. Course Heroes, or there's a couple others that are out there. Course Heroes is way up at the top of the page usually, or any of these other sites that are non-ASU. Right? You guys see one? And click on that. So for 572, this is what comes up. This is out of Course Heroes. And it's the exams, it's the exam solutions, it's the solutions manual. I wrote the solutions So this is Professor Montgomery's class, but I was using this as an example because I got my classes somewhat cleaned up with this particular site. But the solutions manuals there are a book that I wrote along with a couple of others that's now being published. Some of those are actually the complete solutions to the book that just goes out to faculty through Wiley. But those are the lecture slides, those are the solutions to exams, and there's a bunch of this stuff out there. And I think you guys will find largely find your exams. The students post this stuff. A student can post stuff to this site from one of your students. They post them to these sites, and they get like a month's discount or some free. They don't have to pay for a while, on their next downloads and so forth. So they post all this stuff. These sites make a pretty good profit off of our material, and that's become quite a complaint with some of the faculty in my department. They're saying, gee, they're making money off of my IP, my copyrighted material. And they are. They're making a lot of money off of our copyrighted material. Now, I'm not asking for a particular policy or anything like that at this time. I'm not exactly sure what we do about it, but what I've found is that most faculty don't know about this. And so you can contact these particular sites like Course Hero and these other sites. You can contact them and ask them to remove your material. What I suggest you do, if this is something that's a little bit problematic for you or some of your faculty, your fellow faculty in your departments, is let them know about it. I don't know how we do a campus-wide communications other than to come and give this brief talk. But let them know about it. Let them know some of your faculty at your friends at other universities as well, and try to bring down some of this. Quite frankly, this is an ethics violation. They're stealing our material. Students are without permission having it posted, and then other companies are making money off of it. Okay. So
thanks, Dan.
That's here to spread the word.
Thank you. I think someone at Polytechnic also had a concern they wanted to bring forth. He's not here.
He did not show today, no.
Okay. All right. And then, was there anything at West Campus?
We are okay. Thank you. Nothing.
Okay. Okay. Anything at downtown campus? Okay. So, we will follow up also on Dan's question, and I'll discuss it with the provost and vice provost to see what should be next steps. And so at this point, unless there's anything else for the good of the order, then we are adjourned. Can I have a motion? Okay, have a motion and a second. So have a great evening. Thanks.